What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast, episode 77. I'm your host, Marcus. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to tell you about something very important in the podcast realm right now. Just this week, well, actually, the week that we recorded this episode, which would be, it is the 20th of September right now. So you probably hear this a couple weeks past when this big news actually happened. But that's just the way it goes. We can't tell you about something before it happens, and we record a little bit in advance here. So apologies for you just hearing about this now, but we did launch back on the 17th, maybe the 16th of September, our brand new H&M Trucking Podcast webpage. You can find it by going over to podcast.hmtrucking.com, and it is a fantastic resource for you to catch up on this podcast. It's got the episodes all there, every single one of them categorized. So, like, you want to hear something funny, you just click the funny tab, and it'll give you a list of our funny episodes, and so on. It also has information about all the guests on the podcast. There's a little extra information about me up there. You can scroll down and see some of our top drivers at H&M Trucking. That's really cool. Who's got the most miles of the month? It's sort of the same info that you get out of the newsletter, but it's all right there in one spot. If you're scrolling, checking out the podcast, you can go check out some of those top drivers as well. Plus, there'll be some polls on there every now and then. We'll ask you some questions, see if we can't formulate some content by just getting your responses. But you guys have already come out in droves on the website. Once again, podcast.hmtrucking.com. We have had so many more downloads this week, so many more people checking out the podcast than we normally do because the website's there. That's the one thing that we've got to attribute it to. So we're super excited about it. We want you to go and give it a good little stress test, take it for a ride, see if you like it. Again, the web address is podcast.hmtrucking.com. We'd love to hear your feedback on it. So if you have something you'd like to tell us about it, maybe something you'd like to see on the website, or you'd just like to give us a pat on the back, we'd love any of that feedback. So get in touch with me. There is a direct line to me also there at podcast.hmtrucking.com. So stop by, park for a minute, and scroll around and see what you find over there on our brand new podcast website. All right, episode 77, time to get into it. What are we talking about today? Well, H&M Driver Tommy Bash actually reached out to Sherry Vogler here recently and said, hey, I've got something I think would be really good on the podcast. And after we heard about what he had to say, we definitely wanted to get him booked and get him on here, because today on the H&M Trucking Podcast, we are talking about truck stop parking lot safety. And I think that that's kind of a wide brush, if you will. There's a lot of things to cover under that, because obviously the safety of the driving part is a big part, but really, I think more than anything, once you hear Tommy's story, we'll be discussing the safety aspect of just being at the parking lot. Maybe you're not driving. In fact, I think a lot of these stories that you're going to hear and examples that you're going to hear in our upcoming interview with Tommy and H&M driver Tom Woods Jr. Are going to be more about when the truck is stopped for you, more about when you are parked and operating as kind of a resident of the parking lot there. Denny Stone, our co-host, is going to come on and share some hard, fast rules that he had while he was trucking for parking lot safety. Because listen, it's not just about, protecting the load, protecting the truck, keeping the dents off your fender, and keeping your mirrors attached. Obviously, those are all very important things, but they're also sort of out of your control. Once you're parked, you can't really control it if an idiot driver decides to back up and shaves your driver's side mirror off. There's just nothing you can do about that. But there are some things you can do to try to secure your safety while out and about. And Denny will talk to you about that. And also Tommy will tell you a story that will make the hair stand up on the back of your neck, because it was a close call. And I went ahead and just did a Google search just because I was curious to see what was showing up in the news. I Googled truck stop parking lot accidents, okay? And I want to read you, and then I clicked the news tab. So this isn't just a straight up Google search, because there's a lot of sponsored stuff in there. I just wanted to see what the news organizations had on this, and I just want to read you a bit of this. Well, the first one is just from 4 days ago at the Houston Herald. It says officers respond to man urinating in parking lot. I'm sure that we would love to see a bit of an uptick in that. By the way, my only run-in with the police in college where I lied to them about whether or not I had been drinking was because they caught me on a camera in the middle of the night urinating in public. So I normally don't talk to people about that. It's not one of my proudest moments, but I did get pinched. Fortunately, they let me off with a warning. That was the first week of my attendance at the University of Oregon. So really stumbling out of the blocks there when you think about it. But let's move on to my Google search about truck stop parking lot accidents. Man hit by a truck at a truck stop, airlifted with serious injuries. Man shot, leaving a truck stop's parking lot. Man fatally struck by big rig, turning into truck stop parking lot. Trucker is told he ran over man and decided to drive off. We will touch more on that story coming up here when we get into this interview. Truck driver hit car while towing vehicles at a Memphis truck stop. St. Clair man who tried to crash truck through police parking lot gates charged. That one's a little different. Woman dead after being hit by truck in a grocery store parking lot. Similar, not exactly the same. Man killed while working on pickup at a truck stop. I mean, look, you can go through and just see the headlines. These are all, there was not one of those that happened any later than winter 2023. I've just worked my way back chronologically to like the 1st of November 2023 and the 1st of September. Man struck by turning big rig in South Carolina truck parking lot. Look, there's a lot of these, and that's the reason we decided to do this episode today. We've got somebody here that had a close call in Tommy Bash that we want to talk to about it, and we've got Tom Woods on too because Tom has some philosophies about protecting himself while he's out and about 6-8 weeks at a time away from home, and that is the most important thing here. We talk about safety as a broad topic on this podcast every time we're talking about getting you home safe to your family, getting everybody else on the road home safe to their family. And that extends from the freeway into the parking lot when you know that it's a dangerous place, like we're going to find out here when Tommy tells his story. So I'm gonna shut my yapper for now. I'm gonna bring on our drivers, all three of them, retired driver Denny Stone, Tommy Bash, and Tom Woods Jr. right now. And just because I know you're thinking about it, we will get an update on Wilson Cactus from Tommy Bash. So stay tuned for that. The interview's coming up right now.
From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
Joining us next here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, we got a couple of H&M drivers. We're going to talk a little bit of parking lot safety and just safety in general with, and of course, also I'm joined here by my awesome co-host, Denny Stone. Denny, I'm excited to have this conversation not only with the drivers that we're about to introduce, but with you because I know that you had some hard, fast rules about the way that you operated in truck stop parking lots and some things that you would always be watching out for and stuff like that. So we're going to get to that here in a moment. But first, let's introduce our guests. He is a H&M driver on the van side, I believe. And Tommy, if I'm wrong about that, you can scold me. But welcome Tommy Bash to the show. Thanks for being here, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm on the hopper side, Marcus.
You're on the hopper side.
I won't scold you. Yeah.
You know, I love to echo. My dad has a saying, Tommy, if I've got a 50-50 chance of being right, I'll be wrong every time. And that is really where I live in this world. So thanks for not scolding me. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here. How's Wilson Cactus doing?
He's doing great, making some new friends and keeping me in line, and I'm trying to get him to cook dinner tonight, but I think he's going to pawn it off on me.
Yeah, he probably will, man. It's got a little bit of a prickly attitude, that one. But, our friend Tommy here is the one that has Wilson Cactus in his truck. And if you haven't been following that on Facebook, it's a really fun follow. Wilson Cactus gets into all sorts of hijinks out there on the road, meets a lot of great people, so check that out. Thanks for being here today, Tommy. Also joining us, I have, and I know that this one's on the hopper side because he scolded me before, Tom Woods is back with us. Tom, thanks for being here, buddy.
Woo-hoo. Yes, I love being here. Thank you, guys.
No problem, man. It's always great to have you drivers on here. I want to start our conversation out by reading this article out of White Pine, Tennessee. And Tommy, you actually sent this to us. It comes from thetrucker.com. It says here, a truck driver has been arrested after authorities say he struck a fellow trucker with his rig at a Tennessee truck stop and then fled the scene. According to the news release from White Pine Police Department, 70-year-old John R. Emery Jr. of Chattanooga was arrested February 2nd and booked into the Jefferson County Jail in White Pine. He's being charged with leaving the scene of an accident involving death or injury. The report says that the incident happened January 12th at the Pilot Travel Center in White Pine. The victim, Gary M. Clark, 64, of Prattville, Alabama, was run over in the back parking lot of the travel center near the fuel island at approximately 6 p.m. The investigation showed that the truck that struck Mr. Clark was pulling into the fuel island, striking him with the front passenger side of the truck. The driver of that truck did not purchase fuel, but did go inside the store, purchase several items from the store, and leave the store about 20 minutes later and got back into his truck. It says here that other drivers had notified Emery that someone had been run over and that he needed to stay at the scene, but he decided to leave the parking lot and head south. So really, just a kind of a terrifying story from a trucker standpoint, I imagine. Tommy, the reason we're having this conversation is because you had told Sherry that you had a close call here recently, and I want to get into your story real quick because it's really sad about what happened to that guy, but from my short conversation with you setting this interview up, Tommy, it seems like this is a pretty frequent thing out there and almost happened to you the other day.
Yes, it is. These drivers, they come into the truck stops. They don't pay any attention. They're on their phone or playing with their tablet or their GPS and not paying attention. And a while back, I always walk out far enough that I can make eye contact with the drivers or see if they're in the truck when they're fueling. You know, I have to walk past this truck that just pulled up, set the brakes, and I noticed something interesting. So I stepped back and took a second look. And this guy came through the fuel island fast enough that the turbulence almost knocked my hat off.
Wow.
Had I not stepped back, I would have stepped right in front of him, and there's no way he'd have been able to stop.
No, and you would have been gravely injured, if not killed, by that collision, I assume, Tommy.
Exactly. At the rate of speed he was going, I mean, he just never slowed down through the fuel pump island and off into the parking lot. I watch him. I shut down early. I'm an early riser and an early driver, so I'm in the parking lot early. I just kind of sit in the truck and watch with amazement. You know, about 6 or 7 o'clock, the Love's 500 race starts, and they just come. They can't pass anybody on the highway, so they're passing them in the parking lot, I guess. I don't know what's up with it.
Scared somebody's going to get that spot they saw.
Yeah, I know that's a lot of it. And listen, people drive like complete assholes around parking lots when they're not at a truck stop. I imagine with some of the ways that drivers are rushing to get parking spots and trying to get shut down for the night, there's probably some pretty crazy speeds that happen within parking lots at truck stops. Denny, I see you shaking your head. Yes, lots of experience out there. What have you seen with this kind of behavior in your travels?
Same kind of thing every day, you know, different truck stop, different state, but every day it's the same thing. And just like he said, I was an early riser. I'd get up, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I shut down mid-afternoon usually. So I didn't want to have the fight for a parking spot, but I imagine that contributes to it. If you're talking 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, there's only a few left, and they're trying to get to them. But yeah, it's nuts. And some of them are just, I don't know, even in the middle of the day when the parking lot's empty, they're flying around through there. 30, 40 mile an hour through a truck stop parking lot is just stupid. It's dangerous.
Yeah, with all that weight on and the size of the truck, you don't think about this a lot. We don't really mention it that much because it's such a well-known fact for you drivers out there. But those things are not easy to see out of when something's standing on the ground next to the truck. You can hide a full-size person pretty easy in a lot of those blind spots. So definitely having your head on a swivel is the right thing here. Tom Woods, I want to go to you. What have you seen in regards to this type of behavior in the parking lots?
Well, man, I had a close call myself the other day over here in Illinois. I was backing into a spot, And this one guy says, "Man, you need to slow your ass down." I was like, "Are you talking to me, driver?" He says, "No, that man almost hit the back of your trailer." And he took off, and I guarantee he was doing by the time he got to the street out there to turn in back on the highway, he was probably running 40 miles an hour probably.
Wow. That's crazy.
And, you know, it's crazy. But, you know, the problem I have is, Marcus, is those drivers from Oklahoma, they really don't know how to drive down there, you know?
Is this just a Texas? Yeah, I was going to say, is this just a Texas-Oklahoma rivalry that I'm hearing right now? A little bit of Red River stuff.
I do like to get old Tommy going, but no, man, I've had a lot of close calls out there, man, and people are listen. I mean, I know we're gonna get into the carrying a firearm or stuff like that here in a little bit, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I've seen people get out and literally fist fight, throw numbers, throw the dubs at you. They throwing their tire buddies at you. They got their binding bar out, and I actually seen a guy on the internet. He took a machete after a guy chasing him around his truck with a machete. You know what I mean? I mean, we're getting out of control out here over a parking spot that you should have got. You should have been in there sooner. You know?
Yeah, or just plan your route out better for sure. Tommy, what did you learn from this experience? Are you changing the way that you operate after that happened to you? Such a close call? Are you just always thinking, hey, I got to have my head on a swivel? What goes through your mind when you're kind of processing that experience?
Yeah, I just kind of, when I'm in front of the truck and there's an empty fuel island next to it, I definitely slow down and take a look before I cross it, and try not to get distracted on the way across the front of the trucks, you know?
Yeah.
No, well, yeah, you guys got to watch these. You got to watch the fuel islands, man, because man, you got these people are in such a hurry, man. They want to get their fuel and get out of there, or they want to get pulled up so they can go inside and get their groceries or whatever they got to get and get on the road. I mean, and then you got people like me that I like to fuel and just get out of there, you know. But I don't get in no hurry, man, because I heard about that guy getting killed over there when it actually happened, like a couple days after it happened. And you know, my condolences for his family. But I'm telling you right now, it's scary being a truck driver out here these days. Coming in these truck stops, it really is. You don't know if you're gonna get smashed, wake up next morning, your hood being laying on the ground, or you know, you accidentally run over somebody that you didn't see because he's between the trailers and you're backing up and you don't see him. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fueled the other day, and the guy next to me, he hit 6 gears pulling out of the fuel island before his trailer tires passed the pump.
Wow.
And there's no excuse for that. This morning I was sitting here eating my breakfast, and I look up in the parking lot, and I watch a truck pass another truck in the parking lot. The one that got past, he's doing 4 or 5 miles an hour, and this guy just blew by him, racing him to the fuel island. You know, and I don't know. It's like the whole world is all about me, and the heck with everybody else. You know, and it's pretty scary.
I imagine
trucking ain't like it used to be, Tommy.
Yeah. Well,
what's that, bro?
I said trucking ain't like it used to be, man. Truckers had an ethic out here. We had respect for each other and helped each other. That shit's gone now. There's no more of that.
I know. I was a pump jockey at a truck stop in the early 80s, and the driver pulled in and he said, top it off, and he'd go in and take care of his business. And normally, once you got to know him, you fill him up, pump his tires, wash his windows, check all the fluids, and pull his truck ahead. When he come out, his truck was fueled and ready to go.
Yep.
And, you know, now I guess I was practicing for being a truck driver.
Yeah, you got to get good at that because you're going to be doing it all yourself, man. Well, Denny, I want to turn this to you here because I know based on some past conversations that we've had that you had some pretty hard, fast rules about the way that you operated when you were parked at a truck stop getting some rest. So talk me through it. What was your philosophy on walking between the trucks?
No, didn't. Only as a last resort, and even then I did it very nervously and very cautiously for my safety. Had a friend years ago, he's no longer with us, but he was coming back from getting his groceries and stuff and had a bag of ice, and he hadn't even busted it. It was still a solid chunk. got in between some trucks, and some guy was following him. Well, he got about halfway down, and somebody came from the other side. The two of them trapped him in there. Well, this guy was a Marine. He was about to kill both of them. He took that sack of ice and started busting heads. They had to pull him off of them. But that's just a prime example of why I don't walk in between trucks. Also, I always parked in the back of the parking lot. Back or the side, off to, away from everything, generally against a curb if I could, so that way I've only got trucks coming in and out of one side of me that could take off a mirror or whatever. Also, because there was usually grass there for Gilly, but I would walk all the way around. If it was a long way around, that's fine. I mean, I sit on my ass all day long in the truck. What's a few extra steps? I could use a little exercise. The only exception to that is if it was just terrible weather, pouring down rain, monsoon rain, or really, really cold and icy parking lot, something like that, I might try to get a little closer. But 99% of the time, I'm in the back corner of the parking lot. Like I say, I never walked in between trucks, always heads up. I'm never looking at my phone. If you're calling or texting me while I'm walking across the parking lot, it's just going to have to wait until I get somewhere.
Marcus, I got pictures of that while he's in the back parking lot back there. Some girl, a tutu, I don't understand. I didn't understand that. But
Dawn might be listening to this. Dawn might be listening to this.
Go ahead and finish the story there, Danny. I'm sorry I put that out there.
Down there in New Orleans.
I'm sorry, Tommy. Denny's
done.
just shaking his head at you right now because he's. It's normally me that gets those responses out of him, Tom, but you got one that time. You got Denny shaking your head at you, man. I see that at me all the time here, so I get it. But Tommy, go ahead. What were you going to say about New Orleans there?
Down there in New Orleans, if you're out walking around down, walking Bourbon Street or whatever, if you notice all the cars are parked on one side of the road, and you can tell the locals from the tourists because the locals walk on the side where there's no cars because they hide in between the bumpers of the cars, and when you walk by, they'll jump out and mug you.
That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Tom,
that is crazy.
When I was talking to you setting this up, Tom, you told me about a similar story, a friend of yours that got jumped in between trucks. Wasn't that the case?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if Danny, I don't know if you remember it, Tommy, I don't know if you remember, but in Texarkana, there used to be a truck stop over there on Kings Highway in 59 called Triple J Truck Stop. There used to be a nice little restaurant there. Okay, so my ex-wife's uncle worked there, and he ran the little tire shop there at night. Well, he heard some riffraff going on behind this trailer, and the guy's screaming. Well, he walks around the corner. Next thing he knows, he's picking himself up off the ground. Don't know how long he laid there. His cheekbone crushed in, his eye socket cracked, and he had to have lower eye socket whatever you call it.
Yeah, reconstruction.
Reconstruction. There you go. Help me out here, guys. I'm tongue tied a little bit, but and he had a broke nose, and he laid there in his blood for don't know how long, and he was actually able to get up and walk into the truck stop with his shirt on his face, and they took him to the hospital, and he was in the hospital for a couple of weeks for that, and never found out who did it or anything.
Wow.
So be careful getting yourself into a situation that too.
Right. I think that's kind of some of the advice that comes from Denny's anecdotes there is that you, Denny, were always trying to keep yourself in a spot where that potential was at its minimal amount. Like you're getting yourself away from everything, you're getting up against the curb, you're getting out in the back 40, and I imagine keeping to yourself out there and just keeping your head on a swivel, it sounds like.
Yeah,
well, that plus being cautious. Like for instance, when I opened my driver's door, there were two things sitting right there: my flashlight and my tire thumper, which was a big wooden stick with a solid metal core, so I could grab those at any moment. Also, this was attached to my belt.
Oh, is that your K-bar?
That's my smaller K-bar. The other one was strapped to my seat belt. My seat belt, the thing that pokes up from the floor, the little mount
the
thing.
buckle there. Yeah.
So I had this one attached to my belt in a Kydex sheath, and anytime I was in like having to walk to the truck stop or something, I took that snap off. So this thing, it comes out just like that.
It's fast, and you're
I don't know if you can tell, but it's sharp.
Well, I would assume you're not packing around a dull knife for self-protection there, Denny. Otherwise, we got a whole other conversation we've got to have.
No, and then this one that I basically used for cutting tomatoes and stuff if I was cooking, but it was in the truck too. Fortunate, proud, happy to say I never had to pull them in any kind of a dangerous situation, but they were there.
Right, just in case.
I think more of it is how you carry yourself. Heads up, eyes open, looking around, checking your surroundings. Don't walk in between trucks. You make eye contact with somebody, it's like the schoolyard bully. He's going to pick on the weak one. He's not going to pick on, the guy that's walking around checking things out. I don't know. Enough said.
Yeah, well, no, because it kind of brings us to the next part of this conversation, which is, we've talked about having your head on a swivel and making sure to be aware of your surroundings and just being cautious and careful. But there is a personal protection side of this that comes in. And Denny, you just showed off, if you're watching the YouTube video there, you just got to see a couple of Denny's very nice and very sharp K-bar knives. And that was his choice of personal protection when he was out in the truck. Tom, I know that you are a proud concealed carry license holder and that you do pack a firearm in the truck. Is that correct?
Absolutely, I do.
And first of all, talk to me about the safety involved with that, because I know that you're very experienced. You're a former serviceman yourself, but you keep that gun in a secure location where only you know where it's at, and it's it's in a safe spot. It's not just sitting on your console.
Right, and if you go to the yard, H&M yard, this goes for all drivers. Get you a lockbox, unload that thing. That makes sure there's no round in the chamber. Lock it in your lockbox along with your ammunition, and put that lockbox where nobody can find it. Gets in there to do your service or move that truck around if you're ever doing that. But yeah, safety's number one thing. I don't mess around my gun. It's clean. It's ready. It's locked, cocked, ready to rock. Is all I can tell you. But it's in a secured place. I don't want nobody knowing where that's at. I mean, that's just. You're not going to see it sitting beside my seat while I'm driving down the road. If that's anybody's asking, because I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
When I get to a truck stop, I do my business. I go out, take care of my truck and trailer, get back in, lock my door. My gun is where I need it to be at for the night. And that's just safe. You don't see it having on my side, which I can do that. There's no law says I can't carry it open or closed. I got the license for a reason. Safe with it. If somebody sees you with that gun, it gives them an option to try to antagonize you and try to get you fired up to see if you'll pull it. And I don't let that happen either, because like I said, I got, like Danny said, he had a stick beside his driver's seat. So do I.
Yeah.
And I had to pull my stick out over there in Council Bluffs, Iowa at the Sapp Brothers, because the guy backed in my trailer trying to take off and do a hit and run. And he come at me trying to grab me. And he said he's going to put his hands on me and hurt me. And I grabbed that stick, and I told him if he stepped one more step, he's going to go to the hospital getting his hands reconstructed, because I'm not going to play games on that either. And I did have my gun at that time too. I don't want to have to pull my gun unless you come to my truck unannounced. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a last resort, and I think that's, it's an important last resort, but it is, and that's why when we talk about this stuff, I always want to be very clear about H&M's policy first and foremost, which is H&M is fine with you having a firearm in the truck with you. They just want to know about it. They want to be informed. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They want to be informed. And if you can get a concealed carry in your state, and if you don't have to, you can still get it, because other states require you to have that. And if you got that, and let's just say the law enforcement is called out, and you pull that concealed carry out, that automatically tells that officer that you're a law-abiding citizen.
Yep.
Because another incident happened in Illinois, which they got the FOIA card. You got to have that FOIA card over there in Illinois. I had to pull a gun out on a guy. He was trespassing. He was coming at me. I put him down on the ground. The officers arrived. They told me to drop my gun. I dropped it down. I didn't drop it on the ground. I uncocked it, went inside the house, unloaded it, laid it on the counter. They come in and ran the serial number, and they also seen, oh, he's got a concealed carry. I'm traveling through. They let me go. which they could have said, they don't allow the Texas concealed carry. So they said, oh, hell, he's got a concealed carry, so he's a law-abiding citizen. We don't recognize that because Illinois is one of those states that doesn't recognize the concealed carry for Texas. But he was trespassing. He was on my friend's property. He didn't have a gun. I did at the time. You know what I mean? So saying that, there's a lot of fine line of carrying a firearm across state lines.
Yeah.
Some allow it, some don't. Some want you to have a concealed carry. Some want you to be able to see it. But it's really goes back to your Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, if you're thinking about this, it's something that you want to do or something that you want to look into, definitely do your research and think about getting that concealed carry permit. In Oregon, for instance, where I live, if I get that concealed carry permit through a certain outlet here in the state of Oregon, I'm good for, I think it's like 8 or 9 different other states. And there are different states that have that will certify you for certain other states. But just look into it because like everything else that has to deal with the federal government, it's a bit complicated. State government, it's a bit complicated. But there's a lot of research and resources out there for you to use and make sure that you're following all the laws and also keeping yourself safe. Tommy, I wanted to ask you real quick what steps you take out there for your personal protection. You got a K-bar knife, you got a tire thumper. Are you a concealed carry permit owner? What's it look like in your truck?
I just rely on my knife and my tire thumper and faith. You know?
We do have an H&M driver, female driver that told me she got I think it was H&M driver. She told me she had a can of that bear mace. You know, that big old can that shoots like 15 foot for a bear when you're out camping. She carries that with her. So, that's kind of, I wouldn't want to get touched. I wouldn't want to mess with her. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
I mean, that stuff's got to be way worse than human mace, you know?
Well, I can actually tell you from a little bit of experience, and no, before anybody has any crazy questions, nobody maced me, all right? But I did used to work on kind of a wild radio show, and we did mace our stunt guy out in the parking lot with some bear mace one day. And it was windy, and I was the one holding the microphone. And I will tell you right now that even being next to somebody that gets maced is a terrible experience. That's a very effective way. In fact, I bought my wife a little one that's just about the size of the palm of her hand for when she's running out on the trails here in Eugene. And I make her carry it with her because, I'm terrified of the psychopaths that are out there lurking on the trails. But Denny, I've seen you kind of nod your head a little bit when we're talking about the mace. Any experience with that, or is that something that you had on the truck, or maybe something you gave to Dawn when she was out by herself?
Dawn she's a crack shot, and we both had our concealed carry, and I kept a weapon on the truck, but really the only time it came out from the lockbox, unloaded, ammunition stored separately, all that kind of stuff that was already mentioned. Occasionally, you just have to. You wind up parked at a dicey location. You're not at a truck stop that's well lit. You're off at a shipper or receiver or down at the dead end of the street at the shipper or receiver, and it's not the best side of town and stuff. That's when it would come out, and I'd be locked and loaded just in case somebody with a baseball bat cracked through my window and started coming in, especially during that BLM movement crap.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
But another thing I will throw out there was a driver that he was not in favor of the Second Amendment, but he wanted to protect himself. He kept a couple of cans of wasp spray on the truck. And that stuff is like 20 or 30 feet it'll shoot out. And so, if you don't feel comfortable carrying a weapon, maybe that's your answer. That or the mace or pepper spray. I mean, do something, but basically most of the time it was just being heads up and being careful.
Yeah, being diligent. And listen, I'm not condoning this at all, and understand that when I say these types of things, I always have to think about that. I'm not condoning it. But if you did have a can of Raid that sprayed 15 to 20 feet, and you did have a Bic lighter, you would have a flamethrower because this stuff is very, very flammable. And be very, very careful if you ever decide to do that. In fact, just don't try this at home is what I'll say here on the podcast.
My grandfather almost burned the barn down doing that.
We're gonna jump back to the gun deal. There was a driver in Nashville, Tennessee. They found him 3 days later. He was missing. His truck was parked in the back of a area by the truck stop. And when they found him, God rest his soul, he had a couple bullet holes in him. You know, he was dead. Everything was gone. Somebody had robbed him. So that's what I'm trying to tell you guys out here. Just, you know, we go to different areas. Louisville, Kentucky's a bad area. Dayton, Ohio is a bad area. You know, Atlanta, Georgia's a bad area. Now we're talking about Venezuelans over there in Denver, Colorado, taking over, talking about coming up to you and telling you don't pay $50 to stay at a truck stop. They're gonna beat you up and, you know, and ruin your life. You know, so just saying, you know, sometimes a stick ain't gonna do it when they got sticks with nails in it or they got a gun. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, being military it's crazy because I was raised with guns. My dad was military, and I did 6 years overseas. And I'm a gun packing person. You know what I mean? And H&M at first didn't really like the idea of it. And I talked to James, and they got the policy changed and said I could carry as long as I could present I could still carry, but they've actually lessened that just a little bit. So if you want to carry a gun, you just got to do everything that the H&M asks you to do when you're coming to the yard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all geared around the safety of it too. It's all for everybody's protection. And, you know, definitely follow all those protocols because you don't want something like that to cost you your job when you have that thing in your truck to help protect yourself in the worst of cases. That'd be a real bitch if that ended up costing you your job because you didn't go through the correct steps to, you know, to have that thing in the truck for sure. And
you know, Marcus, when I was talking to you the other day about talking about this episode here, I'd mentioned to you about how some people are that don't like guns. You know what I mean? Oh, help me! This guy's got a gun to mine. Help me! Save my life! And you shoot that person dead because you're saving a life. And they said, "Oh, thank you so much, but why'd you have to kill him? Thank you so much. Why'd you have to kill him? Oh, he had a gun to your head, and that's what my job is with somebody with another gun to protect the people that are being harmed, right? I mean, but a lot of people don't see it that way, right? They see a different picture. It's like you could have done something different instead of taking somebody's life. You know what I mean? But
it's split-second decision-making we're talking about in a situation like that, and you don't always have time for your heart to bleed for everyone. And I that is something that I will definitely put out there. As, you know, look, compassion is a great thing. It's an amazing trait. There are so many people in this world that are so much more compassionate than I'll ever be able to be, and I commend them for that. But you can't always think along those lines when there's split-second decisions that need to be made, and that's why I say your heart can't bleed for everyone. Sometimes you got to pick a side. Sometimes you got to pick a side there. So,
and if it's a law enforcement agent or somebody like an ambulance driver or somebody who's in first responders being harmed by another bystander, because we see it all the time out here, I will stand up for that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm always aware of my surroundings. I'm looking. The first thing I do when I walk in a truck stop, I'm gonna tell you guys what I look for. You know those walking sticks out there, you guys, the truck drivers. Mm-hmm. Tommy, you know, you see those big walking sticks. That's the first thing I'm looking at when I come into a truck stop, or something I can grab just in case some idiot at the counter's got a gun on somebody or a knife pulled on somebody, so I can take their head off. You know what I mean?
Well, I might recommend knowing where the ice machine is, because it sounds like from Denny's little anecdote there that a bag of ice in the right hands can be quite deadly. So
if you ever get hit with a bag of ice, come on, man, that shit hurts, okay?
Feel a lot like a bag of rocks until it gets warm outside, I imagine.
Especially if it hadn't been busted up yet. It's a solid 10-pound chunk or whatever it is. 5 pounds? I don't know how many pounds are it. But
yeah, too many to get hit by and have it feel good. Tommy, I want to talk to you a little bit more here. We've heard some stories from Denny and Tom seeing some wild stuff at the parking lots. Do you have any stories like that? I mean, obviously you almost got hit by a truck the other day, and that was the main reason we brought you on. But have you ever seen the parking lot brawls? Have you ever seen people fighting over parking spaces or anything like that in your travels?
Not really. I've seen some heated arguments and stuff, but they fizzled out.
That's good. That's good. When you sit there and watch that stuff, are you like me where you're like, I'm going to watch until this finishes. I just want to know where this goes. Or are you more of a draw your curtains and stick to yourself type of guy?
I've always been the kind that, like, if you and I were out at the club and you run your mouth and some old boy jumped on you, I'm going to let him warm you up before I step in, you know.
You like to see justice served, at least impartial, right?
Yeah, but if we're sitting there and he just comes up and cold cocks you, then I'm pouncing right in, you know.
Yeah.
And
Marcus, you got to watch out those Oklahoma boys. They like to talk a lot of smack. I mean, I'm sorry. Did I say that out loud?
We're going to have our own Red River rivalry right here on the podcast. I can feel it.
Yeah, I met Tommy in California out there. We was loaded at the same place. He pulled up my old Volvo, and I'm gonna tell you right now. When I met him, he said, "My name's Tommy Bash." I said, "Well, my name's Thomas." And they call me Tommy. I said, wow. And I asked him, I said, where are you from? He says, Oklahoma. I said, oh, Jesus, oh, my God, we got problems now. You know?
Well, Tom, at least he didn't say he was from California. I mean, we can all agree, better Oklahoma than California, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I used to do a lot of work down in Texas, and we used to have a lot of fun, just the camaraderie between the Texans and the Okies, you know.
Oh, yes. Yes, sir.
And I turned the job down on Canyon Lake, mostly because it didn't have any benefits. But, man, one of my favorite places to go was down there in Canyon and hang out at the shanty shack during spring break and watch all the tubers making the loop on the Guadalupe. Man, that's a lot of fun.
I bet you there's some great scenery to get distracted by down there, it sounds like.
And then you got to worry about Danny, you know, since he lives right down the road from me. I always come home and I have to buy 4 brand new tires. And I'm going to tell you right now, I catch a little bit of his tag, but he's got it taped up. He's got a few letters, but I know it's him because I've seen him on Facebook before. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm coming for you, Danny.
You guys are supposed to be friends. You're both Texans. You're supposed to be united against Tommy right now.
I thought
Tommy
you were
can't
coming
be
down to buy me a beer.
Hey, I'm gonna buy both y'all a beer.
I love it, man. Well, make it 3 because I'll have one over here. You can Cash App me, okay? If you really want to buy me a beer, send me $3.50. I'll get it, and we'll all drink it in spirit together. All right.
And you guys do know this guy here, Marcus, is so full of shit. I'm telling you right now, that sucker goes up in the mountains of Oregon, shoots him a pronghead, which is an antelope for y'all people from Oklahoma and Texas don't know what that is, and takes it out at 350 yards on the second shot. I mean, come on.
Well,
I mean,
it was
if
too
the
close.
military guy was there, I would have shot it, turned around backwards while I was over there behind the tree using the restroom, you know? I could have told my gun, shoot that pronghorn, it would have shot it dead.
I'll tell you right now, it was 90 yards for the first shot, and it was just too close, Tom. I didn't feel like if I took that thing down at 90, you guys would give me any credit for being a good shot. So I figure scare it off, get it out there a little ways, and then reach out and touch it. But, you know, I'm like Rodney Dangerfield. I still get no respect for this shot right now. So, you know, I understand.
A little off topic, but back to the safety thing. I'm bragging. I got my new 25 Volvo, but back here in the sleeper, I've got the unlock button for the doors, and there's a red button. If you hit that red button, this alarm goes off and starts honking the horn and flashing the lights. I learned you don't push that in the truck stop out of curiosity.
What?
I hope it was late at night when you got curious, Tommy.
What's it do now, Tommy? What's it do?
There's a red button in here. If you push this red button below the heater control, the bunk heater, it'll start flashing the lights and honking the horn on the truck like a car.
Like a safety deal, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And
well, that's an actually good idea in case, you know, you started having that heart attack when that little girl walking up there with that tutu on the other day.
All right, fellas. Well, listen, we've gone almost 40 minutes here. I appreciate the time from you guys, as always. Thank you for coming on here and talking us through. I know that we didn't get to everything, but we'll get you both back on here again sometime in the future. Tommy,
absolutely.
Tommy, I want to say to you, super glad that you made it out unscathed, and hopefully the next time there's a good-looking woman at the pump and that driver's rubbernecking and not paying attention to the fact that you're also rubbernecking, nothing bad happens, man. Keep your head on a swivel out there, okay?
Man, I always do. I pass these guys in the parking lot staring at their phone with their head down, walking across the parking lot. And it's just unbelievable. Cell phone zombies.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, Tommy Bash, really appreciate the time. Thanks for being here. And, of course, Tom Woods, thanks for being back here with us again, man. And, before I get to Tommy, I want to tell you, give Wilson Cactus the H&M Trucking Podcast best. We're excited to see where he ends up next.
You betcha. I think he kind of favors Denny a little bit with his headphones on and that big goatee and stuff. You know?
I can understand. I understand. I have a face for radio, and I've been told that for the last 20 years of my life, so I get that for sure. Tom Woods, as always, my friend, thank you for being here, man. It's always a pleasure to get you back on here.
Yes, sir. I enjoyed it.
All right, fellas. Well, you guys be safe out there. Keep the shiny side up. And until we talk to you next time, just keep putting the miles on, fellas.
Absolutely.
You betcha.
Okay, so real quick here, this is something we don't get to do very often on the H&M Trucking Podcast, and I'm super excited that we do get to do it because I'm hoping we can give you guys some information in a timely manner, and you guys can protect yourselves out there. So first, I'm going to hit my good old breaking news button because we don't get to use it very often on this show. And second, I am going to welcome in H&M driver Teddy Arnold, who's the one that brought this story to me, and you've probably seen his posts about it on the H&M Friends Facebook group. Teddy, thank you so much for being here today, man. What's going on out there?
Okay. As you know, and most who have listened to the podcast and those of you who haven't, I used to be a fundraising director for a charity, so I still have my thumb on the pulse of the trucking community out here. Mm-hmm. And I got word yesterday through a couple of my people, and one of them was Gary Shaw with the United Coalition of Drivers, and Brandon Cottrell, which is another driver for a company out of Arkansas. But the TA in Denmark, Tennessee, which is just east of Memphis, and it is on our fuel solution route, along with the Loves in Holiday, Tennessee, and the Loves in, I want to say it's Dickerson or Dixon. I want to say it's Dickerson, Tennessee.
It says all here on the post is actually Dixon here on the post as I'm reading it.
Oh, is it Dixon? Okay.
Yeah.
But I know all three of those locations are on our fuel solutions because I use the one, I have fuel frequently at Holiday, Tennessee and Dixon, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Over the last now 4 days, over 100 tires have been slashed, punctured, or destroyed at the TA in Denmark alone, along with another 25 to 30 at the two Loves locations.
Wow.
One truck had all 18 slashed, not punctured, slashed. According to Gary, it said that it looked like a machete had been driven into them and then run through the sidewall of all of them. And it's all sidewall damage. So as any driver knows, sidewall damage cannot be patched or plugged or anything like that. So it means, new tires that the company is going to have to pay for. I personally, if I'm given those fuel route solutions, I'll get my fuel, but I'm not going to stay at any of those locations.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea to steer clear of those parking lots because I imagine that this is all happening when the trucks are parked and the drivers are sleeping or taking a break or inside at the shower or something like that. It's not that somebody's running up while you're getting fuel and slashing them. This is something that they're doing mischievously.
It's all done in the parking lot. It's all done late at night. I got off the phone with Dean in safety, letting them know that I thought that a post should be made on the Samsara, let the drivers know. So y'all might get a post prior to this hearing this, but it also brings to mind you've divulged something to me, and I don't know whether it's going to be on this episode or not. But we were going to be talking about truck stop parking lot safety, and this is another prime example of that. I don't know if that's this episode or not, because this is breaking news. We didn't discuss that prior to me coming on, but you need to be situationally aware, just like you're being situationally aware out on the road when you're driving. When you're in these parking lots, you need to be situationally aware of what's going on around you.
Yep, absolutely. And it will, Teddy, you're 100% right. This is going to be in the parking lot safety episode, and I'm so happy that it is. And I appreciate you, Teddy. I've told you 1,000 times how much it means to me that you send me things and you're constantly in touch with me. And I want to implore the other drivers here while I've got you on the line. I'm pretty easy to communicate with. I'm not always readily available. I did miss a call from you this morning, but you can feel free and send me anything directly, just like Teddy is, that you think is good, because with the recording schedule that we have, we will record an episode anywhere from a week to 2 weeks before it actually airs, because there's editing and approval and all these things that it has to get through. So our breaking news coverage is decidedly lacking on this show, because a lot of the times we can't predict the future 2 weeks in advance. Otherwise, I would love to bring you breaking news, but this is the type of stuff that we can do. And Teddy, you called me this morning, and we're able to just sit down here for 10 quick minutes and put this message out there and hopefully save some tires for H&M, if nothing else. But that seems like well, first of all, this has gone beyond, I would say after you slash your second tire, this has gone beyond theft over 1,000. And so this is probably a felony well into felony territory by this time.
Well into felony territory. Now, I can't remember whether it was in that post or not, because I shared it so fast when it was broke to me, and I copied and pasted, so I didn't do a thorough reading on it. And you can refresh me, but I think they're saying that it's some form of environmental protest maybe going on, but nobody has claimed responsibility for it. So,
man,
it can happen. If that's be the case, it can happen at any truck stop in America. It doesn't just have to be those three.
And let me bring a little logic, just in case by chance here, Teddy, the person that is responsible for this is listening. I know that's very highly unlikely, in fact, nearly impossible. But I am going to say this. If this is an environmental thing and you are trying to stop trucks because you don't like the things that they put out into the air, I might tell you that a tire might be the hardest and most toxic thing to dispose of. And when you go and slash a tire, especially if you slashed 18 of them on a big rig, I would like to think that the net carbon footprint from keeping the truck off the road for a day and then possibly having to dispose of, burn, whatever you're going to do with 18 semi-truck and trailer tires, you're not even in the black anymore. That's a losing proposition in my mind. I'm no scientist. I have no idea what the numbers actually are. I know that when they burn tires, the smoke and the sky turns really black and everybody gets really upset about it. So maybe think of a different way to protest, you, excuse my French here, fucking idiot. This is, this is stuff like this, Teddy, it makes me shake my head, but it also makes me angry for you guys. And I imagine that same emotion bubbles up within you too when you see what these drivers are going through, because these are just people trying to do their job. They don't own these fleets.
Yeah, I don't know exactly whether they're concentrating on owner-operator trucks, mega fleet trucks. I'm not exactly sure, but let's go one step further with what you were saying. Not only the 18 tires that you have to dispose of, but the oil and everything it takes to produce 18 more tires.
Right. And the semi-truck tires are so much bigger than any other tire that a four-wheeler's used to seeing. You've just got no idea what goes into that.
Nope. They don't. So I appreciate you getting out, getting back to me. You, Marcus, you were phenomenal. Drivers, let me say this. I urge you to find Marcus on Facebook. He's not locked down. You can find him, friend him. You can reach out to him through there. And if you've got something, that you want to talk about, he's more than willing to share his phone number with you. But that's how I got in contact with Marcus, is just by friending him on Facebook. And once he sees that you're a driver for H&M, I guarantee he's going to respond with a quick, I like you back.
Yes, absolutely, I will. And thank you for sharing that, Teddy, because I want to, you know, I'm in your guys' community as drivers at H&M, but I'm kind of like a fly on the wall, and all I want to do is build those relationships with H&M drivers so that they know that this podcast is available to them, or I am available to them. That's all that really matters here, because at the end of the day, getting a story out like this and getting it in front of everybody is the main goal. We want you guys to be safe. We want the equipment to be safe, and we don't want you guys to have to deal with something like this, because the ripple effect that it would have on your week, on your month, is going to be something you just don't want to deal with. So we really appreciate you, Teddy, kind of being, you know, in my face about this and wanting to get it done ASAP, because that's what we needed to do here.
All right, Marcus, I appreciate it. I will talk to you next week when we record that other thing.
Yes, absolutely. Teddy's going to come on soon here, talk to me about Truckers Christmas Group as we're getting to that time of year. That will be in an episode that will follow this one, I think maybe 2 weeks past it. So look for that. Maybe October 16th, I believe, is the date. Teddy, you be safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel, okay? It sounds like there's some weird stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm headed home I'll have 2 weekends at home back to back. They're sending me home early, and I've got plans for not this weekend, but next weekend. I'm going to the 53rd or 54th annual Cow Pastures Nationals at the Ardmore Dragway.
Oh, that'll be fun.
So
that'll be fun. Bring your earplugs.
Nope, don't need them.
My guy, I like it. Yeah, you're going to raw dog that thing. That's what I like to hear.
I'll be right in the staging lanes with my cousin. He runs the staging lanes down there, so I'll be right side by side as they're getting ready to go down that 8th mile. It's an NHRA track that's a sanctioned NHRA track in Ardmore, Oklahoma. Drivers, if you're in the area next weekend, don't hesitate to stop by.
Oh,
you'll have a good time.
They're so much fun. Do you get top fuel and alcohol in those cars out there? You guys mostly running stock? What do you got?
It's electronic, no electronic sportsman's. This event, the electronic pays $50,000 to win.
Wow.
The no electronic, I think, is $25,000 to win. So, and the sportsman is like $15,000 to win for the weekend.
Wow.
It's a big race. Like I said, it's 53 or 54 years in a row they've been having this race down there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Teddy, enjoy yourself. I know that's coming up for you a little bit in the future, but get home safe. Enjoy that time off, and we'll be talking to you very soon on here, okay?
All right. Thank you.
You know, there's nothing that I love more on this podcast when we hear a story like that could really shake the earth under somebody else's feet here and hopefully help them realize that, hey, you got to have your head on a swivel, man. This is a football game out here. If you're not looking, you might get hit by something bigger, stronger, and faster than you are, and it could have grave consequences. So please, from all of us here at the podcast, to all of you H&M drivers and beyond H&M drivers out there that might be listening, stay alert at those truck stop parking lots. Keep your head on a swivel. Always be aware of your surroundings. And a little bit of an understated good piece of advice, I'd say great piece of advice given during that last interview, is to keep your head up, man. There's no reason to be walking through a place where rigs are driving past, possibly at unsafe speeds, and looking at your phone. It's unbelievable how distracting a phone is. We all know that from being drivers and being on the road, knowing that phone is sitting there and it's very tempting, but it could be the worst decision you make all day to pick that thing up and give your attention to it rather than the road. It's the same thing when you're in a parking lot. If you're walking across that parking lot and your head's buried in your phone, it's amazing the amount of closed off periphery you get and the amount of tunnel vision and tunnel hearing that you get when you are occupied with that very expensive screen in your hand. So please be careful out there. Protect yourself. Follow all the laws that you are required to follow if you do decide to have a firearm in the truck. That's very important. H&M has a very clearly stated policy on that. And like Tom said, Getting that concealed carry permit license is always a good idea if you are going to be carrying a firearm. Not only because, like Tom said in his story, the cops will look at that as a legitimate piece of licensure, and they will probably give you the benefit of the doubt since you're willing to show that to them and willing to be upfront with them. But on top of that, that concealed carry class is also going to cover some important safety issues of having a firearm on your person or in your truck. Firearm safety is very important. I am a huge proponent of the Second Amendment. I believe in our right as Americans to bear arms. But I was also in hunter safety at the ripe old age of 11 years old, and I've been very much a stickler for my whole family and anybody else involved when firearms are around. Safety is very important. And one accidental bump of the trigger could end somebody's life or hurt them very badly. And if you've ever been around, if you are a firearm enthusiast and you've ever been hunting or out at the shooting range and somebody has had a misfire and a gun has gone off when it has not been intended to, it will set you straight. I will tell you that right now. I was standing about 10 feet away from a guy who had an AR-15 jam on him at a shooting range that was not a professionally or state-run shooting range. It was a private shooting range. And the guy he was aimed down range, and he took his gun and he pointed it at the ground, which was a good thing. But then he started pulling the trigger and turning back towards the crowd of people to talk to them. And about the fourth trigger pull, that gun went off. Now, fired it directly into the dirt. Everybody was fine. But you talk about earth-shaking. Like I mentioned, some earth-shaking things on this podcast. That shook my entire earth when it came to firearm safety, and I never wanted to be around when something like that happened again, lest that I want any of my friends or the people that I cared about for something like that to happen when they're around. So, look, we might be firm proponents of the Second Amendment here on this podcast, but we'll also tell you that firearm safety is absolutely paramount if you choose to have one to protect yourself. And, of course, letting H&M know and following all of their standards and laws that they have in place is paramount as well. So take that warning, I guess, that cautionary tale that we heard, and learn from it, because this was an episode that was kind of riddled with lessons that I think can impact every driver out there listening. And we appreciate you listening. We appreciate you clicking subscribe. All of you new listeners out there who have found our podcast from going over to our new podcast website, podcast.hmtrucking.com, welcome to the party that is the H&M Trucking Podcast. Glad to have you here. Use that podcast website to get in touch with me if there's anything that you would like to hear or any questions that you have. And you can also navigate from our website right to H&M's main page and learn all the great things about H&M Trucking if you're looking for a gig. I will tell you right now, I am slightly biased, and I'll cover up the H&M logo on my bright white hat when I say this. This is one of the best damn trucking companies out there that you can work for, and I've heard it from enough drivers that are currently and still working for the company and have for a long time. So do your research. Jump on to hmtrucking.com. Navigate over to podcast.hmtrucking.com and learn all the fantastic things about this great company. And you can get in touch with recruiting and everything from the main website there, hmtrucking.com. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Every click, every listen, every download. Don't forget to click that subscribe button, as it is very important for our analytics, and it helps us know exactly how many people are listening to the show and even where they're at. Did you guys know that we're international on this show? It's true. We reach countries that you would have never guessed we would reach. And I'm going to prove it to you right now. I'm going to go over to my analytics page here. We're going to check out our statistics overview page. And we are going to say what's up to Canada, Ireland, Netherlands, and the Philippines. And that's only just been in the past that's the past month. Let's go back to August. Ukraine, Canada, Philippines, Netherlands, Russia, and India. What's up out there in the Middle East? July, we were listened to in the Netherlands, Canada, Ukraine, France, Spain, and the United Kingdom. We are international here on the H&M Trucking Podcast, and we appreciate you, the listener, for being able to say that. Drive safe, keep the shiny side up, and as always, stay fresh, cheese bags. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast.
Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.